The honourable member Calgary Buffalo, followed by Edmonton Strathcona.
The Premier promised stable funding for public education. She promised to build 50 new schools and modernize 70 more. She also promised there would be no service cuts. Broken promises is what the Premier has delivered to the children of Alberta. The government has yet to build a single school in 2 years in its mandates. Today we see 51,000 more kids crammed in the schools with 2,000 fewer teachers than 3 years ago. To the Minister of Education, despite the spin cycle, will you admit that Alberta school children are facing a steep and unprecedented service cut?
Good question. Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is a good question, but the answer is absolutely not. We've got one of the best education systems in the entire globe, and international tests prove that. And that's not being changed now with the current actions that we've had to take, the difficult actions with the budget. But let's be clear, the education budget is one of the very few budget lines in this government that was protected and actually increased. So let's not let Albertans believe or perpetuate myths that there was actually cuts to the education budget. Now, does that mean any particular school or any particular school board has the same amount of money to work with this year than they did last? That's quite possibly not. But this Premier has been focused on building Alberta and keeping our promises. And we look at the $107 million that she put back into the system. We look at the Education Act, the ATA deal. We look at the removal of PATs. Those are promises made and promises kept.
Given it is unconscionable that the Minister of Infrastructure has not yet started the building of these new schools, instead of messing around with P3 schemes, will the Minister get on with the business of building schools in neighbourhoods where kids live and acquire the financing to start building these schools tomorrow?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know where this member's been, but I've been to all kinds of school openings in the last year and a half, and I don't know how he can say in only a year and a half, less than half of our way through the term, that we're not going to get this done, Mr. Speaker. I'll guarantee you we'll get our 50 schools built and our 70 modernizations. And I've been to lots of ribbon cuttings and grand openings of schools already this year, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Just to bring the Minister up to speed, those are schools promised by Premier Stelmach, not by Premier Redford, so let's get on the same page. But anyways, given that that answer does not satisfy me, how come it's taken you 2 years to get, virtually 2 years to get an answer on P3 proposals? Why have you been out there building these schools instead of sending out a proposal?
Honourable Minister.
For one, Mr. Speaker, we haven't been elected 2 years yet, and for another, we made our first announcements of 30 schools this spring, Mr. Speaker. You don't announce a school one day and start building it the next. The planning and all the design and research has to go into that, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member. Honourable member, Strathcona.